Hi, I'm Dane Brehm, and I'm with Cintegral Solutions. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit today, and that's you, is going to be about free space optics. Anyone here have heard of free space optics before here? Oh, good. A couple of you. So what we have here is a really exciting technology. A lot of you have heard of RF, wireless. You've heard of 5G. You've heard of all these connectivity options, fiber, all of those things. All right. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit about how free space optics or Lightbridge is the way forward. So a lot of you here probably watched a major sporting event, right? Olympics was just a few months ago. We have the Super Bowl as well. MLS, you have World Cup, tennis. You have all these great sports that have an incredible experience for each and every one of you. But I don't know if any of you ever thought to consider that where does that data go? Where does it land? When we have 85 cameras, 130 cameras, all right? You have socials, you have marketing, you have the primary cameras, you have audio, you have comms, you have all of these variable things. You say, where does it go? All right? And I'm here to tell you that you have another option. All right? You have fiber, you have your RF, but now you have your optical. So what free space optics is it sends a purely optical beam of light. It's a laser, right? And now you guys are going to laugh. I'm sure you're going to say, we got lasers. And that's true now. Okay. So what we're bringing here, the NAB, is a very, very unique solution. And it's actually on the roof of NAB. And what it does is it sends a beam of light that's encoded as data, very secure, very directional, and it allows you to go from point to point, line of sight. All right. And what that does is it's a unregulated, or in terms of the FCC, the laser is a class 1 laser. And of course, the housing is regulated. Those are very important details. But what it gives you is 20 gigabit over 20 kilometers, 12 miles for you Americans out there. I see all of you. All right. Over in 160 microsecond path, all right, and takes only minutes to set up, all right? If you were to talk to anyone who's laid fiber, they're like, oh, I'm going to need a couple days, prep, months of advanced notice, permitting. If you're trenching a permanent solution, there's all of those options, all right? So the great thing about this solution is there's no right-of-way fees, right? No one likes to pay fees, right? We pay enough on our credit cards. We pay everything online. No fees, right? We like that. So let's compare your alternatives, okay? You have, let's just say 24, 36 cameras, okay? You're doing a major event and you got to capture 2D, 3D, immersive, you have vertical, you have all of these different formats that we're in now, 16 by 9, okay? But they all have to go through something, right? So what are your choices? Your choices are fiber. You can go down the RF. Some of you might use Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is great for some stuff, not great if you're moving around or you need to switch networks or switch cells quickly. And then you have satellite, which pretty much requires you to bounce things, right? You're going to bounce off a mountain, bounce off a satellite, and it hits. It's really great for sending information that can be transmitted over along with a lot of latency. But if latency is a really, really critical part of what you're doing, any SD2110 fans out there? I knew there was, right? So what SD2110 is going to demand at some level, some low latency RTP values, okay? It's going to allow you to be able to sync your audio, your video, all that stuff. But with the laser, you have this really high bandwidth, 20 gigabit. I mean, come on, that's huge. 5G can't even get close. Maybe some RF can get close, but they're huge, massive. Look how big this thing is. It's almost as tall as I am. It's a good thing I'm taller. And Obviously, install time, really important aspect, right? Really important. You don't want to spend weeks on something. You want to be able to make a call, know what's going to happen, sign it off, check your list, done, right? Now, why RF, Wi-Fi? Yeah, they can get kind of close, right? They're kind of either a lot of time or a little time, depends on what it is, right? But satellite, you got to coordinate that. And you have a lot of FCC, licensing spectrum you have to deal with, coordination. I mean, coordination's huge cost. All right. It's a really expensive way to do it, but sometimes you need it. So with this solution, we're hoping not only will you be able to beam your data from your location to your cloud, your location to your truck, location to your post house, or if you're AWS to AWS, for example, and have immediate connection to your production without the limitations of some of these other options. Another thing is cost, right? Cost is pretty big for fiber if you're trenching. And a lot of times with fiber, they lay the fiber and then when it's done, right? They recycle it, it goes back, never to be used again. That kind of sucks. It's pretty wasteful, actually. But with the laser, it's fiber over the air. And so that makes things really, really fast. And it also gives you that long distance. Next is obviously, any of you in production, temporary production, post, two of you, good to meet you. If you're in production, right, you have to be there for a day, a week, a month. Maybe you're shooting on stage tomorrow, but you're on location the next day. How are you going to move your data? And the traditional way of doing that would have been hard drives, sneaker net, right? You're going to throw it on your storage. You're going to move it, you're going to give it to a Teamster. They're going to drive it over, give it to your post house. Post house going to download it, process it, do everything it needs to take. It takes time, right? There's a little bit of cost in there too. Not even just talking about environmental costs as well as something to also consider, but really just the cost in general of the storage, and storage is really high right now, right? So it's one of those things where we feel optical is actually the future. So I just want to mention a few things that probably a few of you might be thinking about, right? What are the downsides? Why would I not use this? In what situation would, and what situation would I not use it? That's so important, right? So one of them is fog, right? Who likes fog anyway? I don't know, maybe a few people like fog. With the current systems we have, if it's a super dense fog, we're kind of socked in. It's going to be tough, right? You have other options at that point. You have failover RF, other technologies that you might fail over to, right? And that's a good solution, a hybrid. All right. But in most situations, anything outside of the densest fog, you're just going to get a little bit of fog fade. And all that means is that if you're only sending 2.5 gigabit worth of data, which is not too high, but a little bit higher than 1 gigabit, and you have a 20 gigabit link, and let's just say that it's fading, you may not even ever notice that it's actually faded your data at all. It might have maintained that performance the entire time, right? But maybe if you're in that really extreme high point, right, critical 10 gig, 20 gig, you might come down to 8 gigabit, or 5 gigabit. Those are really things to consider when you're thinking about optical. Obviously, line of sight, right? It's a laser. We've all seen the movies. We all know how this works. So you're going from one point to the next. So for NAB, we did a live demo, and you can come check this out at the Create booth. It's CREE8 booth, and you can come see our live demo. But what we have is actually a red Raptor with a fiber back on it called Red Connect. And what we're doing is we're transmitting from our hotel room, right, the room we sleep in, directly to the roof of the West Hall. And then we're dropping our fiber down directly to our digital imaging cart. And we're able to show that camera. Actually, we got a great view of the Wynn Golf Course. We got a great view up atop that we can see kind of parts of off-strip Vegas, right? Good spot. Next thing really is going to be around thermal shimmer, right? Some of you like, it's optical. Look at how big this front portal is. It's huge, right? If the sun beams into it, is it affecting us? It isn't. It operates a lot like a and the IRND filter, if some of you in camera are thinking the same thing, right? And so what it does is it eliminates all other spectrums except for the 1535 nanometer spectrum that the laser is beaming. It's about the size of a chopstick. That's about how thick that data is, right? If you're in a short range, let's just say a couple kilometers, 1 mile, 2 mile, you're never going to notice this. It's never really going to be a thing. But since this system can go 12 miles, right, you might want to actually relay a bunch of systems. Say you have to go around something, okay? You're going to relay up to the top of a building. You're going to go around and hit there. If you're using fiber or anything, it's kind of like around the world, right? But with with optical, you have the ability to kind of beam up to that point and then beam it down using optical the whole entire path line. So if you're starting optical, let's just say from a camera, and you're optical all the way through your path line, you're going to reduce your energy consumption as well significantly compared to electronic. That's another thing to just add to that. All right. So what are the advantages, right? Some of you are, who here works at a REMI facility? Anyone know what a REMI facility is? Okay. Maybe a couple of you. So currently with broadcast, what happens is they will be, let's just use Coachella as an example. I'm sure there's a couple of you that were at Coachella last weekend actually, and the weekend before that. And what that was is they had 8 stages. They were broadcasting each one of those stages directly to a technical operations center, which had a technical director. They did all of the cuts. They did everything that was there and then operated it all remotely at a broadcast center. All right. So what this allows you to do is to deploy where you have no infrastructure. There's none, right? You could be out in the middle of the desert. You can have your own party. You're going to broadcast it to the world, right? So in this case, you could stream all of your information across one or a couple of these links, and that gets it directly back to your network operations center for your team to sit in a nice, air-conditioned, controlled environment to be able to make the best show possible, add your graphics, add everything on top of it, all of your slides, like everything that goes into the broadcast, because it's so important for experience, especially in broadcast. I mean, we're in the experience game, right? Sports experience. It's all about the experience. All right. If some of you are in the news gathering or news collection part, right, then you might be interested in potentially having a really fast deployable solution that allows you to get your signal out as fast as possible, right? That is so critical in news, right? The incident happened, or something was said by, political folks, and we got to get that information out, right? We've made a decision, and now we get to get that out, and the news is so important to relay that information, right? So having a system like this allows you to have a private network, all right? Security is really important. Get that private network, and bam, it's out and into a cloud or into any number of things, production office. It could be your truck, because some of this stuff, you're still going to have to use satellite to beam it out, right? Middle of nowhere, especially. And then if you have a temporary venue, a pop-up, an event, something that's just like, bam, you're doing an event and you're gone in a month. That never was intended to continue to do these types of projects, and it has no existing infrastructure, or even worse, it's really, really old infrastructure, and you just don't want to deal with that anymore. It's a lot more expensive to try and add the infrastructure when it's in there. So bringing something like the Lightbridge, you have the ability to have that infrastructure to get out very easily. Now, some people are using it in combination with private 5G or anything like that, and they use the private 5G close, and then they use the Lightbridge as backhaul to get it off, especially if you can't lay more fiber. Anyone a golfer here? Yeah. If you're golfing on an Arnold Palmer course, all right, you're not going to be able to dig up that course and lay fiber, right? You're going to have to find a way to not step on that grass and get that signal from one side of the course to the other, right? 500 yards. Some of these are incredible. And so having the Lightbridge be able to beam your video feed from one side of the course to the other, or aggregate a bunch of your feeds, or maybe you got a guy up in one of those GLGs, in a lift filming and they need to be able to see something, how are you going to get that signal down? Or how are you going to get that from where their position is back to the TOC or even to the knock or even to the broadcast or OB truck? All right. And then the last thing I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about is more of like high capacity FSO links for motion picture, episodic television, right? Say you're working for a studio and your studio wants to start at a stage that is a huge space, but it's an older stage. Maybe they're in an airline hangar, or they're inside of a balloon hangar, something really old and kind of, I would say, decrepit maybe. And you're like, wow, I need to get my signal out. But you can see maybe a Lumen ISP, a Cognito ISP, Cogent, another one, any of the ISPs out there, AWS, right? And there's about a place about 4 miles away from here that we could beam directly to and get our data out, right? So important when you're trying to be fast and when speed really counts, right? But at the end of the day, getting your data out is really important for speed, right? You want to go home. You just did a 12-hour day, 14-hour day. I mean, gosh, how many of you have done a 12-hour day at NAB? All right. I know my feet hurt. So just things to consider when you're out there and you want to be able to kind of try to get home faster, right? That's half the battle, right? Getting off your feet, getting off your body wears too. It's not just about the technology. All right. So let's talk about the venues out there, the arenas, all those folks, right? They've laid fiber everywhere. There's 5G everywhere, right? And then they have a music concert and they need to put a camera because the director says, you know what? I'd really love a shot up at the top of the catwalk looking out over. And that's the shot that I want to be able to cut to. And you're looking out and going, oh man, I got to find a way to get that over to that spot. Maybe on the top of a mountain, right? Maybe it's a really challenging location. All right. The Strip. Okay. You can't just park a bunch of fiber down the Strip, right? You got to have a way to get that around. So what's really important for some of these venues and stadiums is having a way to deploy fiber over air really quickly in a really quick kind of scenario. Get that up, get the shot. Maybe it's for a day, maybe it's for a week. All right. Get your shot, relay your information. That director is so happy to cut to that perfect shot. They got exactly what they want. And that's important to the creatives, right? We have to really, the creatives at the end of the day are the ones that are justifying all of the technical needs for a lot of us, right? I mean, the brands are also a part of that, of course, and you have the clients and all of the agencies as well that might be controlling some of that and want to have something really high quality. So having the FSO as an additional solution for your, tools of connectivity is pretty amazing, right? But also nowadays we have sensors, right? I mean, who loves those, we're next to AWS, right? AWS, can I stat that? I mean, I think they should pay me like $1,000 now for just saying that. But what you want now is the stats. You want to see your F1 car with your favorite driver on the top, flying around the screen. You want to see those sensors of your athlete running around. What's their heartbeat at? All those sensors now on athletes are a really interesting experience, right? It adds to that experience. So having that for your sports performance team, your analytics, but also your broadcast is such an important part of what makes the experience that much more enjoyable. All right. So just to talk a little bit more about all of the other options that are out there. And it's really just to show you what's possible, right? You might say, oh, that's just a broadcast solution, or that's just an enterprise solution. I want to tell you it's an anything solution, right? Maybe you don't have money for RF. Maybe you only have money for Wi-Fi in your budget and you just want to put that, and you might be able to justify that. Or maybe just all of your budget is in post, right? You just want to get it to your cloud instance and then everything else flows, right? It's such an important part of the modern workflows that we have, right? If you're in theme parks or immersive, right? That's experience, story, right? We all want to have the best experience. So that's why FSO is a really great solution for adding to that experience in a place that you otherwise would not have any infrastructure. Of course, I mentioned light music already is another one. That's your redundant, network that you might have. That might be your blue line or your yellow line for additional resiliency, redundancy, right? Feature films, you're shooting in a really difficult location and you're a lighting programmer. Any lighting programmers in here? Yeah, I know there's a couple of you out there. So a lighting programmer might just need to get to bridge two lighting setups. They might have a programmer in one place and all of the lighting instruments across multiple stages, and they need to be able to link those stages, and they don't have the ability to lay fiber. RF's too expensive, and satellite's not even an option, right? So this is something that's really quick and easy. All right. Who here in Vegas loves motorsports? I know we have F1. Here we go. I knew it. If you're a motocross fan, right, or you're F1, or you're, I'm just talking about cars and stuff, MotoGP, right? There are so many places that they all go, and they take that all with them. And so being able to get your broadcast and your experience while you're at the track, right? This might be a solution to get you internet in. If you got some AI tools, I know some of you are using AI. It's obviously a big topic for all of us, and you want to leverage some of those AI tools. You're going to need to be able to connect to your colo. You're going to connect to your cloud. You need to connect to any number of your AI tools, and that's going to be the way to do it, right? Because it's all about experience. And then if you're in like the museum, galleries, video installation world, right? You might be at Malwolf. Anyone been to Malwolf around here in Vegas? It's pretty cool if you haven't. It's a great experience, right? But if you're doing a pop-up or something of that nature and you want to get your data out or in, right? Maybe it's your customer data. Maybe, it's your collection data. Maybe it's your video, your audio, your analytics, all that fun stuff. You just want to get it out. It's so important for optical to be a solution. So I'll kind of leave you with this slide as well. Is obviously we have the Olympics in Los Angeles in a couple years. We got World Cup this year in Los Angeles, Canada, and Mexico. And so being able to have these deployable solutions for advertisers, promoters, activations, this is where FSO really, really, really makes a huge difference. All right. Now, just to talk a little bit about roadmap, right? Because some of you are like, wow, I've only heard of this today. What is your roadmap? What are you going to do? When can I get 100 gigabit? When can I get 400 gigabit? When can I get to that point where FSO is going to improve more and more of what we're doing, right? So right now, we're just using it for a number of telco. Currently, we're using it in motion picture. Obviously, Cintegral is a laser as a service as well as a managed service. We also appeal to some of those CapEx, OpEx budgets that you guys might have. All right. And we're really trying to increase the bandwidth, right? Right now, if we need more bandwidth than 20 gigabit, which is still pretty high, we just start adding units. Okay. You need redundancy, you add units. And so if you want to create a ring network, you would add those units, kind of connecting each one of those optical paths to each other. And they don't interfere with any of the RF. They don't interfere with satellite. They don't interfere with anything. I mean, we might even be using this in a couple of years to beam our data directly to satellite. Some of you Starlink or Amazon Leo fans out there. So as we get into much higher performances over the next few years, we're going to get into the terahertz, right? Some of you are talking about gigahertz. We're talking about terahertz in the optical world now. And that's the, undiscovered country. So we say one of the greatest assets we have is all of these roofs of all these buildings, so on and so forth. All right. So I'll just wrap this up and just tell you that optical is the future of television, broadcast, sports, and broadcast. And it's also the most sustainable solution. This is only 40 watts total consumption, right? If you look at a lot of other solutions, it's a little bit too much. Thank you again. I'm Dane Brehm with Cintegral. Thanks for coming out and listening to my speech.